or whatever day of the week you're listening to this podcast. It's Andrea coming at you, another episode of Mastering Social Media for Schools. I'm so glad you're here. We hope that you are enjoying your summer. It's summer vacation by now, summer break, and you're taking some time to relax. But it's always good to get inspired and get some great ideas as well. And you're going to do that in this episode with Tara Adams. She's amazing. She's a great school communicator out of Arkansas, and she's going to talk about her unique kind of entry into school communications, kind of her experiences with a program that we offer, which is called our Social Media Bootcamp program, and some of those key takeaways. And one of the biggest things was giving teachers a voice and making sure that their stories are told, and that guess what? Tara doesn't have to do it all, right? And she can rely on others. So that was a big takeaway. She's also found some great ways to kind of batch her work out so that she doesn't have to always be posting at the last minute. And she's going to share some really insightful things at the end of this interview about how they use their broadcasting class to create content for social media and for their website with videos. She created a team of positive pushers, and they really want to share those hugs, share the love and the light out on social media. And it really evolved from year 1 to year 2 to now even going into year 3, creating kind of an Instagram influencer as a student. So you guys, you're going to learn so much from Tara. I can't wait. Just before we get started, I want to make sure that you know about all of the great resources that we have available at Social School for EDU. And you can go to socialschoolforedu.com/resources. You are going to see a page full of free downloads. We're talking about 100 ideas for social media posts. We're talking about the social media best practices for schools. We're talking about how to respond to negativity online, and so much more. And it's all free. You do have to put in your email address to grab those, but those PDFs can not only be used by you, but they can be used by others in your district, and you can email that out once you download it. It's free to share. My job is to make your job easier. So definitely check that out at socialschoolforedu.com/resources. And now let's get started with this week's interview. This week's K-12 PR tip is a little pep talk from your friend Andrea. This is all about not being afraid. I like to say sometimes we get analysis paralysis. And sometimes we're so afraid to make a decision because we're not sure if it's going to work. And certainly with social media, that comes into play because our work is so out there, right? It's in front of everybody. And we want the comments and we want the shares and we want, the likes. And sometimes things don't work out. I've been there, you guys. I have tried things that I think are going to work wonderfully and they flop. And then there are things that I don't think are that great and they take off. The biggest thing is don't be afraid. You guys, don't second guess yourself into not sharing something that you want to try. Certainly, just give it a go, do your best. And the next time, you're going to learn from it, or it's going to be a wild success and you're still going to learn from it. But even if it flops, you're going to learn. And so I just want to make sure that you, as a social media storyteller for your school, for your district, that you're not afraid to try some things and that you don't get so into the weeds of trying to do things exactly perfect that you don't do them at all, right? Perfection is the enemy of, just being done, right? And so get things done. Don't be afraid. So that's my simple tip today. I hope you enjoyed that little pep talk. And now you're going to get a great pep talk from Tara because she's amazing. So let's get to that interview now. Hey, Tara, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Andrea, thanks for having me. I'm super excited.
Hey, I think you're the first guest from Arkansas.
Hey,
That's like
go Arkansas. Yeah.
represent, right?
Yes.
Very excited to have you, and I would love for you, and we're really just meeting for the first time too. So I'd love you to introduce yourself and share a little bit about your role as communications coordinator there at Lakeside School District.
Okay, awesome. Well, I'm Tara, like you said. I moved here from Little Rock, which is still Central Arkansas, but I worked at a nonprofit arts academy for 6 years prior to this. And I started off as a dance teacher, and then I morphed into their advertising director. Husband,
So that's like a normal, progression. You're the very first dance teacher that progressed into.
yeah, like it happens all the time, right?
Oh my gosh, I love that. What kind of dance did you
So
teach?
I did primarily the babies, ballet and tap and jazz and stuff. Yeah,
Oh my,
but I like jazz and hip hop are more my comfort zone. But yeah, I started off with the babies and started to get my master's, and it was in professional technical writing. And so the executive director kind of pulled me in. I did operations for a little while, and then she saw what I was learning in my master's program was really helping with our social media and stuff. And so I just became full time advertising at that point. So
okay, so you did
yeah.
advertising for that school. It was what was it? You said it was a non.
It was a nonprofit in Conway, Arkansas. It was called Blackbird Academy of Arts, and so it did theater, music, writing, dance. It did all of the arts in one location, and it was primarily after school, but there was a lot of homeschools groups too. So I had a little bit of school stuff in that in
Okay.
that facet, but
Okay, that makes sense. And then you were there for 6 years, and then what happened?
there for 6 years. My husband did a lateral transfer to a new hospital, and he brought me along with him, obviously. But it was closer to where he grew up, and Hot Springs at the time was hiring this position for communications in the district. And so I was going to try to part time it and work still at Blackbird, but I saw this position and I was like, I'll see what it's about. And I got the job. And so I've been here for 6 years this June.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Um, so what social media platforms do you run for your school district?
So we do Facebook, Instagram, and then we have a little bit of YouTube, but it's primarily, we don't market there a lot. I mean, obviously it's marketing because it's there, it's online, but we haven't put a lot of time into it.
Okay. And question for you, how big is Lakeside School District?
We have about 3,600 students, K 12.
Okay. And are you the only person in the communications office?
I'm not. I actually have a partner in crime. Love her. Susan, she's more PR, so she does all of our tours. She does, I mean, we work hand in hand. We do all of the things, but I'm primarily the techie person. So I do all the Instagram, social media, website, parent call outs, all of that kind of thing. And she's more parent interaction. We're both parent involvement as well. Oh, excuse me, as well, but yeah.
Sure. Oh man, that's awesome. So I'm going to dig into your pages and we're going to have them all linked in the show notes because you do amazing work. I was just telling Tara, I just shared one of her posts on my page because I get inspired, especially like, do you have a graphic design background, Tara?
I do, yeah.
Okay, I get. So what do you use to create your graphics?
Well, primarily I would do everything in InDesign and Photoshop, but the ease of Canva, and I mean, if I have to get real technical and manipulate things in a certain way, I don't love to use Canva, but it's on the fly. I just use Canva now
Oh,
just because it's easier. It's on my, I mean, I do have Adobe products on my phone, but it's so much more user friendly
sure.
to use Canva. So
Okay.
yeah.
Awesome. I love it. Canva sometimes makes me feel like a graphic designer, but then when I look at things like what you're making, then I'm like, no, Andrea, you're not. It's a snap back to reality, but that's all good. I love it. So we'll talk more about the content that you're sharing. But Tara, you recently attended our boot camp program, which is led by Stephanie Sins on our team. How did you find out about that boot camp program?
Through your podcast.
Oh, you're a faithful podcast listener.
I am. I love it. I mean, we even listen to it on lunch breaks. Well, uh,
Do you laugh
we're
at my
like,
do you laugh at my accent?
No, we love it. Perfect.
'Cause I love
I'm
everybody.
sure I have one too. So
Yeah,
there we go.
exactly. Mine isn't as cool as yours, but it might be more entertaining. Well, that's awesome that you found out about it through that. Um, so can you share what your experience was like in the boot camp program and kind of just describe like how it was set up and kind of what it was all about?
Oh, for sure. So overall, I think if you're a newbie, if you're a vet, whatever, like you're going to get something out of it. And it was amazing because you really dove deep into each week, like setting up your system and then looking at Facebook and looking at Instagram. And so it wasn't only here's all this information, it was also applicable. So I think, or I mean, like you had time to apply it and then come back for feedback. So we would, like but we would have a sit and get. So we would watch something for the week, and then we would get to ask questions, and then we would get to implement and talk about that. And so it was an amazing time because not only were we getting Stephanie's input, and even Heidi would jump on during the question day, which amazing resources, but you also had this community of a small group of people. So your voice was always heard and you always had time to share. So I think that just the whole package altogether, it's an amazing experience, and it got me fueled up for the next year, even though we're ending. So, and I would say, like, if you're going to do it, make sure you can set off those 5 weeks specifically for that. We had a little bit of a spring break and our spring breaks didn't line up. So I kind of was in and out one week of 2 weeks, but I mean, phenomenal. Like I loved it.
Yeah, so you got kind of a video to watch, and you had
Mm-hmm.
a few days, 5 or 6 days to watch that, and then you actually did live Zoom Q&A and a
Correct.
live Zoom like accountability report out. Steph held you to the fire and said, "Tara,
Yes, you did.
what are
Yes.
you
What
taking
did you
action on?"
do? For sure. Yeah.
And I would imagine, Tara, just looking at your page, like you were probably one of the more advanced people in the group. And then there's some people that were probably just beginning. But like
For
you
sure.
said, there was always something that you're
Yeah.
like, I need to work on this for my school.
For sure. And for me personally, I am kind of I like to do it all. I like to control everything. But just taking in that first week, I was like, I don't have to be everything to everybody all the time. Like so many times teachers get so excited and they're like, hey, come with your camera. We're having this big event. And you get there and everybody has their phones out and everybody can take pictures, but it's so much more than you telling the story for the district. It's your teachers are telling. People buy into what they're saying because they're in the classroom. They get firsthand experience. So I love, like in the very beginning, just having that. Let your teachers tell the stories. Set up an email address. Have them send it specifically to that, not to your personal one, to this separate social media account, and give them a voice. And so I'm super excited about implementing that into next year.
Yeah,
And that was probably biggest takeaway is, yeah, you don't have to be camera girl all day, every day.
well, and when COVID hit last year, you couldn't be, right? So you had to
Yeah,
rely on other folks, although that was a whole different thing because that was more about survival. Like
for sure, for
let's
sure.
just make sure, kids are connected to the internet and that we can teach them and everything. But you're right, you're so right. I mean, everybody is a storyteller, and the way that I tell it, like I'm getting ready to share some awesome softball photos. We have a super small school, Tara, and we like got together with this softball team. These girls knew nothing about softball when they started the season, and to see their progression from their first game to last night, their last game, I'm so proud of them. And their coaches are so positive. And I have these amazing pictures from an alumni that was actually there that takes sports photos. And so I love it. Now, I could give my perspective as a parent and say, I do their social media. So just as a school district, so proud of these girls. But I really want to get the input from the coaches. And I know sometimes it takes a little bit extra effort to ask for that, but it's going to be that much more powerful because it's from them, right?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
And you're a trained writer. I mean, I was a chemistry major. Like, I have no training in writing, but you probably could create something great. But I just think that firsthand perspective. Another little tip that I got, and I didn't get this until afterwards. I had shared some great photos, and one of the teachers said, thanks for sharing these. One of the kids said, Mrs. Berg, this is the best day ever. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I needed that quote for the
Yeah.
post, you know? So,
Yes.
yeah, so sometimes asking for a quote to go along with a story is a powerful way for getting your staff who may not think they have a story to tell, but they do. And then, I don't know, it's just a little tidbit feedback.
No, I love that. That's a great idea to ask for a quote too.
Yeah, but I do agree, that social media email address, Tara, it's something I preach. And I have been talking to all of these new members in our membership program. And, a lot of them just feel overwhelmed, right? And they
Mhm.
feel like I mean, they can take better pictures, right? I mean, you can take better pictures than that third grade teacher, Mr. Smith. However, you can take good enough pictures and then you can get aspects of everything that's going on in your big school district and tell all those stories, right?
For sure. Oh, definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely. And everyone, I mean, you're accustomed to holding your phone and taking a picture. So it's not new. It's not a new concept. And so like they're doing it all the time, probably at home with their kids. So just do it with your kids at school too and
right.
share it with us. So
Yeah, absolutely. Um, So you got a chance, obviously, to get your own questions answered, to get, to try to take action on what was, what you were learning. And we dove deep into Facebook, obviously, and
mhm.
Instagram and Twitter and YouTube. And I know you kind of shared, getting that separate email address was a big takeaway. Are there any other biggest takeaways that you had from that program?
Also batching, just taking time to just sit there and do it. You have great ideas, and a lot of times you'll do it for a couple weeks and then it falls off the radar. So I think just taking the time to make sure and it gives you a backup for content. So setting aside 30 minutes, whatever it is, a month or whatever you want it to be, if you're going to batch out your whole month or several months in advance, just to give yourself some flexibility and some room for other stuff that's going to come in. Because, I mean, in this position, every day looks different. Like I didn't realize I was going to be on the football field a few minutes before this started, and I was filming our superintendent. So it's just you never know what's going to happen. So having that batching and that content that you know that's going to be there was very helpful for me too, to give me some flexibility during the day, I guess, and
Yeah.
just peace of mind.
Yeah, I'm really excited. It's summer now, and it's gonna be summer when this airs. And like just to look out into June, July, and August and see that I've got some of my main things, my Throwback Thursdays, and I do a weekly student feature, and I'm doing a question of the week because that was such a big deal during our little 5-day challenge. And so we decided, hey, we're gonna do a question of the week for the summer. And to look out and see that, I'm like, oh, I get that relief.
Yes.
What are some of the regular type pieces of content that you would batch out there in your school district?
So through Social Media Bootcamp, there was somebody on there and they spoke about a Wellness Wednesday. And I think right now in this time, just anyways, but mental health is so important, but not only mental, physical, just checking in. And we recently, actually last night at our board meeting, hired 2 more mental health therapists for our district. And so getting some of our PE teachers to do some physical stuff, our child nutrition director get some of our people to do like nutritional things, and then our mental health people to do just little tips. And my idea is that it's going to be an Instagram story, and we just push them out on Wednesday, and then also have it on Facebook as well to access. But so that's something that I took away from the boot camp, but that I want to implement
That's
going
awesome.
in.
And I'm looking over at your channel that it's not something you've added to like
We haven't done it yet. It's a brand new thing, and
oh,
I'm
okay.
working on it now. So I've contacted these people, and they're supposed to send me little video clips
Okay.
because I want to do some throughout the summer because we're not in contact with our kids, but for them to see those faces and see
Okay.
their teachers in the summer, I think it's
So
important.
Tara, this is gonna about mid-June, June 20th, I think this is gonna air somewhere around there. So I'm holding you accountable now.
Okay, all right,
Because if everybody's listening, they should be able to go onto her page and see those Wellness Wednesday videos.
100%.
So there you go.
Love it.
It's just a little more accountability. Well, I say, you can learn all you want. And while you're listening to this podcast, you're nodding your head and you're being like, you go, girl, Tara. Like you're doing all these things. You guys, you can do it too. And it's like, get excited for yourself. But the only way that you can like this podcast, listening to this podcast or listen to any kind of trainings makes sense is if you take action. Because otherwise you're just like absorbing it and be like, oh, that's nice. No, it can be nice for you, for your school district, for your peace of mind, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yes. And I would say, do you still have, I guess you shut down the fired up.
Yes, the fired up
That
base.
was a winner.
Yeah, and I got my purple version here with my hot lemon water.
Oh, Social Squad was my
Idea?
contribution to
Yes.
that.
Yes. So yeah, Tara's talking about we did a 5-day fire up your Facebook challenge. It was amazing. Over 500 people, Tara.
So I went to the boot camp a little bit before that, and then I did that, and it was was so exciting. It was so fun. But your voice can be so big, and you can reach so many people with the simplest things, but it brings such a spotlight to your district, and it makes people feel valued because it's engagement. It's not just here's this flyer for whatever. It's how Facebook was intended, I think, to be used.
Yeah.
To be a communication thing.
Definitely. So. That was fun. It was exhausting too. So there's some
I'm
things
sure I can.
Yeah, I'm going to get Heidi's help next time. She's going to help me kind of run that Facebook group, but it was fun. And it is something we are going to definitely plan to do in the fall again. Cool. But it pushes you out of your comfort zone a little bit, right?
Well, because you didn't have time to plan. Like, I loved that about it too. Like, we weren't getting all the content before, and this is what you're going to do on this day. It was like this in the morning, here's what it is. You didn't have time to think. And that's good, because sometimes we overthink our posts. We overthink what we're sharing. And the one thing, that's when I started the retirement thing, because I knew I needed to do it. So our very first retiree went out on that Wednesday when you're like, share somebody important in your district or whatever. And just the traction that it got, but it pushed me out to not think about it, just get it done, just do it. And so that was so much fun.
Yeah, this is my saying. Like sometimes we get analysis paralysis, right? Mm-hmm. So we're like, oh my gosh, I don't know if this is right. Is this a good idea? Isn't this a good idea? And it's just like, just do it. Yes. And I can be that little, a voice of encouragement to just, and sometimes it doesn't work. So what's the big deal, right? I mean, it's fine. Well, I'd love everybody to definitely check out the boot camp. You are invited. By the time this airs, we have a boot camp in July, but I'm guessing it's probably already full. So I'm sorry, but there will be one in October, and you did it during the school year as well. And so, you've got to set aside a few hours each week to be able to interact, but it's awesome. You can definitely check out more. We'll have a link in the show notes, but on socialschoolforedu.com under services, you can check out the boot camp. And whether you're a beginner, whether you've been in social media and schools for 10, 12 years, like Tara has really, I mean, I think there's a little bit of something for everybody, and we really drive those systems in to make your job manageable, right?
For sure.
Yeah. Yes, so awesome. So let's just dive into a little bit more of the stories that you're telling on your school district's page. I see a lot of, Tara, really great photos. So are you taking most of those photos?
Yes, currently. A lot of time I will be, yeah.
So yeah, and so next year you're going to try to get a little bit more. Oh my gosh, now I'm hungry because I see a little girl with a Happy Meal holding up her little giraffe or something. Really good pictures, engaging, always putting the best picture first, right? That
was a little tip too.
Yes, exactly. I love it. And some good graduation, upcoming graduation pictures as well. Or you just had graduation, right?
We did, yes. 16th. Yeah, the 16th.
Yeah, awesome. So how do you, how much content are you putting out? How do you get your stories today to put out there? Because you must have several schools in your district then.
But luckily for us, we're all on the same campus. So our K-12, it's kind of like a small little college campus situation going on. There's a sidewalk that pretty much can get you everywhere, or a crosswalk to each building. So yeah, I'm just here on campus, and we have a little golf cart that we drive around to the different schools if we need to. But
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah.
So what are some of your favorite stories to tell, or over this last year and a half? I mean, it's getting to be long now with all the COVID stuff. I mean, what were some of your favorite stories to tell via social media?
So this is kind of a two-part thing. I just like when kids are smiling. So it doesn't matter, but if kids are smiling, it makes me happy. But I think one of the biggest things on our campus is I guess it was my second year going into our third. We went to our superintendent and we're like, we have a great broadcasting program. These students work really hard and they have this great content. So is there a way that we can have them have a class that's set aside that are specific students that are showing like that this is what they want to do and they can help us advertise for the district? And he was like, yeah, we're all about it. So we have it's about 6 students usually in the class period during a day where Susan and I will go and we'll sit and we'll meet. And there's a classroom instructor, so they still get credit. It's still like a typical class, but they get specific assignments from the district. And so one of the things that we're always preaching to them and telling them is we're just positive pushers. Let's just share the positive things that are going on in our district. So whether that's a class that's raising money for one of their friends that's undergoing chemo treatments, or our parents' night out, which is from that Happy Meal picture. We have each quarter we hold a night for our students with special needs, and the parents get to drop off their kids, but they have all the care that they would need. So then there's a nurse on staff. There is their paraprofessional, their teacher. They're all there, and they get to have a good night and just play with each other and get food, and the parents get to have a couple of hours because it's just so demanding. But being able to tell those stories is one of our favorite things. But having that class where those students can go and get that really good content and those really good visuals, we always say we just want to share hugs. So I think that if there's heart behind it, we love to share that.
I love it. I love this idea. So tell me a little bit more about the specific assignments that you give those students and how they get, how they help with getting those positive pushes out there.
For sure, we've definitely morphed, and next year is going to look totally different because we had originally just here. These are the pieces that so fishing with friends was an event, and then several other like small events, and we would give the students that I want you to go cover this and bring us back a story, and we would work for several weeks to perfect it. And the broadcasting teacher, he goes and he's part of the crew. Like he will take the video and he'll do whatever. But it could be anything that we just would find stories, good stories in the district and share those out.
So are they mainly putting together videos
Well,
always,
and
or
see, in our first year, it was like a show. Like it was District Press, Lakeside in focus, and we would have different highlights from each building,
okay.
whether it was like our robotics team doing well or whatever it was. And so we would give them those. Hey, robotics is about to go to state. Go cover that. And so that was our first year. Well, then our second year, we had the students kind of go solo. And so each of them were producing different pieces. And it was always, we wanted it to be a heartfelt story. And I can give you some links to some of the really
Yeah.
good stories that they did,
Yeah.
and just show you the progression. But next year, we just implemented this. We haven't been really big on Instagram, and we really want to push that. So we had a girl she's so like camera ready. She's so personable. So she's going to be our Lakeside influencer next year. And so she's just going to help run Instagram stories. So we kind of been testing the waters with her. I'll add some of her highlights to our Instagram account right now so that you can kind of see that. But she's just going to go to the events and kind of give her perspective as a student. And so we're real excited about that. But we're also just going to focus more on the videos on Facebook. And then they're also going to be able to take pictures and write stories. So they're going to be more of our journalists too.
Okay.
For the district.
I love it. So I love how you started with, started year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4 is going to look different too. And so is year 5. The trick was getting started, right, Tara?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
just
for sure.
being,
For sure.
and you got the buy-in and people are like, oh my gosh, we can't trust the kids. And even, getting that influencer, Instagram stories, like she's going to be on, like
Yeah.
a lot could happen, but guess
Mhm.
what? A lot can happen if I'm doing it or you're
Yeah.
doing it, right? Because you never know with kids and,
Yeah.
but okay, so I got to ask a question because
Okay.
this, in my opinion, so at first you had the first year you kind of had a show. And
Mm-hmm.
then the second year you kind of broke it just down into individual stories. To
For sure.
me, because of attention span and all of that, that I would think those shorter stories that
Mm-hmm.
are singular that you can put throughout and share on your website or in social media and all of that, to me that makes a little bit more sense. But did,
Mm-hmm.
did you see an improvement, do you think, in the reach and people who are watching those?
Oh, for sure. And now we're able to, I mean, they would break out the pieces for us afterwards, but it's just not the same when it's a whole packaged story in itself. And so when we started doing those smaller separate pieces, yeah, we get to, like, every month we recognize a group, and we typically have done a story at the board meetings, and we've typically done a story. And so those videos are shown and those kids' faces are seen again. And so it's just really cool. It's been a cool, I mean, having those students, because it's student buy-in. I mean, it's student led. They get to do all of the work, but it's branded, it's district, it's
Right.
what the district wants to say. So there's not a lot of, there's creativity for them in their shots, but as far as the message goes, like, we have to help facilitate that a lot. But
Right. And you do some training then along those
mhm,
lines,
yeah, yeah,
to begin with, so you get some consistent looks to what you're sharing. Well, that's fun. So we're going to link some of those.
yeah.
You guys, that would be an amazing idea if you've got some, I mean, honestly, like legit, those are jobs that they could get
Mhm.
really right
We
out of high school.
we have, so from our first class, two of them, one's at OSU, and she's helping run the sports media program. Like, she is the person in charge. So that's amazing. And then we have a couple of others. I mean, and then some of them are just going straight into the workforce and
Yes.
using the skills that they've gained from how to hold a camera or how to plug things in or how to make mics work. Like, I mean, they just know those skills. And it's so awesome because it's hands on and it's learning and it's getting to share what we do. Is because a lot of times people just think, oh, at the school you get to teach, but there's so much more that happens behind the scenes. So
Oh my
really cool.
gosh, I love that. And people are really going to love to listen to this and see some of your examples. Yeah, I love it. Because you know what? Kids are creating stuff even
Yeah.
on their own time, like outside of school. Why
Oh, for
not
sure.
give them an outlet that is, real world experience? And then, I just think about like my business. There's thousands and thousands and
Mhm.
thousands of businesses like mine that need those skills and that are willing
Definitely.
to pay.
Yeah. Oh, for
Probably
sure.
even while they're in high school, they would be willing to pay
Yes.
them,
Yeah.
for a part-time job. So that's really cool. Thank you so much for sharing that, Tara.
Yes, of course. Of
Now our
course.
time is going fast. It's like, oh my gosh. So just kind of as we wrap up, what what's one of the biggest tips, I guess, that you'd want to share with your listeners, with the listeners now?
Don't be afraid to try anything new. I mean, but as far as, I think relying on other people too is a big, not relying on other people, but just knowing that you're not in it alone, because there's so many of us that are by ourselves. Um, you have so many resources at your disposal, so just use them. So whether you're going to the social media boot camp or you're talking to people in your district that can share pictures from their school or whatever it is, like, I think you're not alone. Yeah.
Yeah. And people like to help.
Yeah.
It's not their
Yeah.
title to what, but it's just like, hey, I can snap a picture and send it off and,
That's right.
be part of that. So that's great. Well, if people listening want to stay connected to you, what's the best way, for them to maybe stay connected?
So, like, through the school,
Well, are you on social media yourself, or do you want to just
I
share
am.
your
I am. I
email
mean, and
address?
I'm
Or
happy to share that, but it's funny. I'm Tara Adams. Um,
on
my
Twitter?
name's kind of hard to say on Instagram. No,
Oh,
I don't. I'm
you're
I'm
on
not
you're on Instagram though?
Instagram. Yeah,
Okay.
but that's more personal. I don't. I mean, I'm happy to connect with people that way. But
Okay.
yeah,
Otherwise, I can share your email address.
yes, yes. Tara_Adams at lakesidesd.org.
Okay, so I'll make sure to do that. Definitely check out her Facebook page. Her Instagram page is beautiful. I'm excited to see where this goes from here. Another thing that I just want to point out is you went through the boot camp and there's some changes you wanted to make. But during that boot camp, which was springtimey, like early
Mhm.
April, that wasn't really the time to start all these new things with your staff, right?
No, no. That's what I wanted to, and I was so excited to do that. But I was like, we're almost done with this year. I've managed so far, and I can do it another few months. And then, yeah, so we have a new teacher orientation that happens in August, right before all of our teachers come back. So I'll be able to target those new teachers hardcore, which I've done in the past, but this will be, now I have something that I can give them. Here's where you send it, and here's what I want. And then we'll get around to all the buildings too during professional development time and kind of push out some of these tips. So,
Right.
or as far as them helping me get the
Yeah.
content.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely. So
yeah.
so the timing, it's always, it always has to be right. And I know there was even other people that have attended previous boot camps that wanted to implement some things, but with COVID and everything, it was like it wasn't the right time. But as you're listening to this, now is the time. I believe that the fall of 2021 is going to be the most excitement that we've had in years or decades with going back to school. And so being able to capitalize that on, let's celebrate what's happening at our school, and then setting up those systems again of people that can help you tell the story. Now's the time. And so again, you can definitely check out our programs, and now we're obviously happy to have you in our membership group as well. This free content is awesome. Tara, I actually had somebody, I want to ask you this,
Okay.
because I give away a lot of stuff for free. So I have my podcast, I got my video tips, I got my newsletter, like all this stuff for free. So one person just honestly said, like, why would I pay for something when you give away so much for free? Do you have an answer for that? Because you made the investment. Your school, I mean, it's not huge money, but it's money. What would you say to somebody that would be like, well, I already got all that other stuff for free? Do you have an answer?
I mean, anything that you can do to help yourself be better at your position or challenge you or make you grow, I think is so important. And I mean, you never know. I don't know. I feel like there could be that one tip that I didn't know. I mean, I had never focused as much on insights as I have now, and it's so much validation to what you're doing. So I think that I learn something new every day. And even though you do give away free stuff, there's so much more that's going to be gained with those little conversations that are on the side. So boot camp is awesome, and everything that you guys had for boot camp is awesome. But some of those little small conversations on the side is what makes it even better. So I
Yeah.
mean,
And I think you're right. I think it's that community aspect of really being able to be part of something, bouncing ideas off of one another, getting inspired by other people. And then there's a little accountability. Obviously, when you invest something, you're probably a little more inclined to actually do what we tell you to do, right? Instead of
for
just saying,
sure,
oh,
yes,
that's a
yes,
nice tip. But no, it's like, no, like I need to do this because it's going to help me, and I invested in it. But that's great. I put you on the spot, Terry. You did awesome.
okay. Thanks.
What a great conversation. I know that everybody's going to love listening to this episode. So until next time, you guys, keep telling those stories, keep tuning in. And if you want to check out any of our services that we have, the membership program or the boot camp, just go to my website, socialschoolforedu.com. So thank you so much, Tara, for spending time with us today.
Yes, thanks for having me. I enjoyed it.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.